Okay, thank you very much for coming along to this afternoon's session. It still looks like people are coming in after lunch, but we'll get started so we have the full time allotted. This afternoon's session is called Trade in Services and Accountancy, the profession helping to unlock the full potential. And what I thought I'd do to start with would be just to provide a little background or context to why we're talking about this topic. To start with, it's our view, international markets are important for sustained economic growth and development. And an active trade policy is a key pillar of that economic growth and development. And our view is that trade in services is important for the profession. It's something that the accountancy profession should be engaged in, should be interested in, and just at a general policy level, but also we should be interested and engaged in specific discussions on trade. So, for example, the current trade negotiations and discussions on the Trade in Services Agreement called TISA. And our view is that the trade should be seen as a means of unlocking the profession's full potential in a globalised, interconnected world, one in which the provision and receipt of high-quality professional services across national borders is an integral part of global value chains. And a very simple example that relates to the accountancy profession is the ability to provide professional services across borders, and the ability for professional accountants and those providing professional services to be able to move across borders to be able to provide those services. And that is very important, as I said, in today's interconnected global economy. And I think it's true to say that the profession at the moment is engaged, but it's engaged in pockets. It's not engaged in what I would say a coordinated sort of global approach. And for example, when I say in pockets, we know that some of the major firms are heavily involved in engaging with trade negotiators, to try and discuss and describe those key issues that we think need to be discussed in those trade agreements. And so one of the thoughts for today is, should the profession be more engaged? And how should we do that? How do we work together? And from an IFAC point of view, can that be something that IFAC facilitates and helps to ensure that, where there are important matters that need to be raised in trade negotiations, that we can do so with a common voice. And I should say, when I mention IFAC, people may not realise, but we were involved in a forum back in the 1990s that established the World Trade Organization disciplines on domestic regulation in the accountancy sector. So we do have a history of being involved, and that's some of the issues that we want to explore today with this distinguished panel that you have before you. My name is Gary Pflugrath. I'm the Director of Public Policy and Regulation at IFAC, the International Federation of Accountants. And as I said, I'm so pleased to introduce to you today this very distinguished panel to talk on the topic of trade. And I'll introduce the panel from the first gentleman to the left and go around the panel. The first gentleman, Peter Allgeier, is the President of the Coalition of Service Industries, which is the association representing the international trade and investment interests of the American services economy. Ambassador Allgeier served as the US Ambassador to the World Trade Organization. He has a PhD in International Economics from the University of North Carolina and a Master of Arts in International Relations from Johns Hopkins University. Peter was also a Rockefeller Fellow at the Harvard Divinity School. Next to Peter is Crawford Falconer, and Crawford is currently the head of division at the OECD leading the Trade and Agriculture Directorate's projects on Services Trade, STRI, and Trade in Value Added. He's been involved in trade and trade policy for the best part of the past 30 years, including as a former Deputy Secretary of New Zealand's Ministry of Foreign Affairs and Trade. Crawford has also been an ambassador to the World Trade Organization in Geneva and was chair of the World Trade Organization Agriculture and Cotton Negotiations and chair of the World Trade Organization Subsidies Committee. Next to Crawford is Ronan O'Loughlin, who is an Irish chartered accountant and presently works for Chartered Accountants Ireland as Director of Education and Training. Ronan is a member of the Common Content Steering Committee, which I think a lot of you in Europe will know what that committee is about, and it's developed a pan-European education scheme for professional accountants. Ronan was technical advisor to the chair of the IFAC Education Board for a number of years, previously worked in the Irish Tax Institute and KPMG, and as well has worked internationally in Zambia and Lesotho. And then finally, at the end of the row of distinguished people here is the Honourable Pierre Pettigrew. And Pierre is the Executive Advisor International for Deloitte in Canada, where he's a valued resource to senior Deloitte leaders in Canada and throughout Deloitte Touche Tohmatsu globally. Pierre has led a distinguished career with success in both public and private sectors and led several major departments for 10 years when he was a minister, and I think in foreign affairs and international trade in particular, with successive governments in Canada. So I just ask you to please just welcome the panel.